Back to school represents a time of change for families, and it can be hard to navigate.
The mental load of parenting is real, but this school year, there is help. Enter Skylight Calendar. Skylight Calendar is a smart touchscreen calendar and organizer for all your chores, groceries, meals, and to-dos. It automatically syncs Google, Apple, and other digital calendars your family uses, and it shows them all together on one beautiful touchscreen display.
Skylight Calendar is super easy to set up and use, and it's available in two sizes, 10-inch or 15-inch. The 15-inch size is wall mountable. It shows all family events together in one spot, so you can see what everyone has going on each week. What I love is that if you're overwhelmed by all of those event flyers coming home, you can use the magic import feature and add them to your calendar in seconds by emailing them to your device. Any photo, PDF, email, or spreadsheet with event information.
It's 100% guaranteed. If you don't love the Skylight Calendar, you'll receive a full refund. There's a 120-day money-back guarantee and free returns.
As a special limited time offer for our listeners, get $40 off your purchase of a Skylight Calendar when you go to skylightcal.com/Flusterclux.
That's SKYLIGHTCAL.com/Flusterclux. And when we have a group chat, when we have a group text, and kids start talking about these mature subjects, when they start talking about death, suicide, sex, self-harm, and a mother sees this and thinks, oh my gosh, is my daughter thinking about this? Is my daughter engaged in this? We want to look and see the power of the group. And it doesn't mean that the power of the group is just in a group chat. The power of a group in real life is really powerful also.
Welcome to Season 7 of Flusterclux with Lynn Lyons, where we'll talk about managing anxiety and all the other emotions too. We tackle the serious stuff without being too serious. I'm your co-host, Robin. I'm Lynn's sister-in-law, and I'm here to ask your questions.
And I'm Lynn Lyons. I'm an anxiety expert, speaker, mom, and author. I've been a therapist for 35 years. Parenting can be a Flusterclux, and I'm here to help you find your way. I'll tell you what to do and what to say.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, Robin.
So we did an episode recently on the school policies around phones really changing and cracking down.
It's everywhere. And, I referenced also Jonathan Haidt's book, Anxious Generation, and he is posting things because he's getting information from parents about how well these policies are working and how kids are actually expressing a lot of relief that they don't have their phones in school.
It's been really, really positive. And we've actually, I think it was an episode, we've gotten so much feedback from people, some really lovely stuff. And I even changed our own family's phone policy after we did that episode too. Yeah, I want to read you what this one listener wrote.
Okay.
Hey, my 16-year-old daughter is one of those rare teens who did not have a phone until she got her driver's license. And even then we gave her a flip phone, which, guys, I think this is actually a great idea. She actually loves it and uses it to call and chat with her friends at night. And I love hearing her laughter and experiencing how she's using her phone for connection in a way that she wouldn't if she had a smartphone. We've been so grateful to hear your advice and guidance around the use of phones and have been thrilled to see her develop skills that help her navigate the world through person-to-person connection. Yep, that's what it's all about. I can't say it was easy to navigate this path, and she will get a smartphone before college. But for now, every time I hear her chatting with friends, I smile. So I saw that right after. We got quite a few people writing us just saying, I wanted to go ahead and get a phone because there was a bus drop-off situation. Like actually that happened to a couple of listeners, but I held strong. I didn't get a phone. So people are really feeling this switch. I'm sure like teenagers and tweens right now are terrified. They know there's change in the air.
Yes, they know there's change in the air. But look, here's the thing. A lot of them are saying, thank you. Thank you for helping us with this. Because when I talk to teenagers, they are very clear about how these phones have sort of taken over their lives. They're having trouble giving them up, but they're also very clear that it's not how they want to live their adolescence and even young kids. The other thing too, I think I just need to emphasize is that, and we talked about this before, Robin, Apple Watches on a third grader's wrist are not any different than them having a phone. I mean, it's a little bit different. I'm guessing that your third grader is not watching porn on their Apple Watch, but the idea that you have to be in constant contact with your kids, the story about the kid getting on the wrong bus is really a lovely story about dealing with something through problem solving, a child being able to figure something out, communication with people, all the stuff that we want kids to be able to do. That's what the phones get in the way of. It's not that the phones are evil. It's what are your kids not learning when they're so dependent upon their phone?
There was an article that was posted about the schools that had eliminated phone use, and I think children had to put their phones in lockers. Someone sent us that article, and kids were quoted saying, like, yeah, I talk to my family now. I just would have otherwise been on my phone with my headphones on, not really present with my family. I mean, it was really, really powerful. If you have an iPhone and your kids' accounts are on your family account, there are settings in there. It was so easy. I just went in, I set a downtime. So now my son doesn't have his phone on school nights after 8 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Good for you.
And on weekends, he doesn't have a phone that functions after 10 p.m. because he's 13.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then yet, just so parents know, you can allow it that if my husband or I or his sister ever need to get in touch with him, it still goes through. Like if it's a family emergency, it can still go through. But it's been great. He knows he resisted a couple of days and you could tell he was not really into the idea, but he soon learned to know this is the new rule. And there has been a moment where he was having a really fun FaceTime with his friends and he knew his 8 p.m. deadline was ending. And he just said, we're having so much fun talking about this one thing. Could I just have a few more minutes? And it's fine, but it's really shifted. And you can also control how much time they have to watch YouTube or other social channels. Just take the reins.
Yeah. And I think that the issue with this is helping kids learn and helping kids understand that there are different things that you do on your phone. Like a flip phone allows you to text and communicate. I've said over and over and over again that there is convenience of that with my kids, I wasn't going to track them because I wanted them to communicate with me directly. So this 16-year-old that has a flip phone and she's actually talking to her friends. I mean, remember the time you would spend on the phone? I remember working on a project with my friends and we took the phone and we'd connect the call and then put the phone down next to us. So we'd be doing our work. And then if somebody needed to talk to somebody, we would yell into the phone. We'd be like, hey, and you'd hear this little voice coming out of the phone and you'd pick it up. Talking to people is not a problem. Communicating with your friends is not the issue. It's making sure that they are not getting pulled into this constant need to be distracted, entertained. I mean, I was just talking to an adult yesterday. And I said to her, have you listened to any of the episodes on Flusterclux? And she said, no. And I said, well, why don't you listen to this episode and this episode? And she said, that would probably be better than me just scrolling my Instagram at night for 2 hours before I go to bed. This is an adult, a mom, who is getting sucked into it. So it's about helping kids connect with other children in positive ways. And even, we had Devorah Heitner on last season, and she is talking about making sure that kids use phones for creation. So games like Minecraft and things that are really fun for kids to do, kids that are making YouTube videos, helping your kids see the difference and limiting the phone time. And can I just reiterate again that sleep is really important? Sleep is really important. So as you're getting your kids involved in their activities in school, they need their sleep. Phones get in the way of sleep, period.
Yeah, this new rule, now that the phone is useless so early in the night, it's absolutely changing how early my son goes to bed now, which is, he's just getting closer to the recommended number of hours.
Right. Because if you can't use something to distract yourself until midnight, then the other option is maybe your body and your eyeballs get tired and you go to sleep. Radical concepts, people. Kids need sleep.
This is why I love the fall. It's time to put in new practices, and usually they're really good. I love the fall resolutions because they're about new habits, much more than I do January.
Yeah. It's interesting. One school that I heard of, they've put in a policy where kids can't have their phones during class, which is great. but then they're allowed to get them back at lunchtime, which I was like, okay, but isn't that the time they're supposed to be talking to each other? So I think schools are really trying to figure this out and trying to see like what works and what doesn't work.
I know you're trying to be diplomatic, but can I just say that school, nope. Nope. Try again, people.
Yeah.
You're missing the point.
Yeah. Well, they're afraid of making parents angry. They're afraid of making kids angry. It really is interesting how scared really a lot of these schools are like, people are going to be so angry at us. I heard of another school where they're taking away the phones. First, you get a warning. Second, they take away the phone. Third, they take away the phone for a really long period of time, and the parent has to come to the school and get it. So they mean business. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I think I told you at our school's policy, they're like, oh, and once we've confiscated a phone, we're not responsible for lost property.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. There, a little CYA there is important. Yeah, you took my child's phone and then the screen was cracked. And they're like, well, the screen was cracked when we took it. Yeah, but also we're not responsible. Even if we did crack the screen, tough nuts.
Or if the phone's lost once they've confiscated it.
Yeah.
I think schools need to practice, the administrations need to practice the experience of people being angry at you about this. This is like a Flusterclux episode. Practice being uncomfortably in a position where people are angry at you about this.
Well, and maybe they need teachers and administrators, maybe they need a little coaching on how to respond when somebody is coming at you with anger, which I know must be so hard for people. Like they're just trying to do their jobs and they don't want to deal with this stuff from parents. I'm in a lot of schools a lot of time and the parents, I say the parents that are coming in hot, right? Oh my God, nobody wants to deal with them. So it's okay for us to collectively say, as I've said, we tried this experiment. It's not working, everybody. Let's adjust. Let's adjust. Yeah. I also see, I have to tell you, the parents that are the most anxious are the ones that are having the most difficulty with this.
Well, that's why I wanted to talk about it again, too, because if you're listening and you're having a hard time with this, okay, Lynn, you tell them.
Yeah. So if you go around with the motto, better safe than sorry, this is the motto. There could be like a club for anxious parents called the Better Safe Than Sorry Club. The problem with this approach to raising your children, the problem with this approach to giving them a phone is that you are saying to yourself and to your kids, the world is a dangerous place. And not only is the world a dangerous place, but my brain is a dangerous place. So in order for me to manage my worry, my anxiety, my catastrophic thinking, I need to have a device and you need to have a device that's going to reassure me all the time. This is hard for parents. It is absolutely hard for parents, but it's important that an anxious parent recognize that they are trying to give certainty to their worry part, and it's not going to go well for your kids. If you are an anxious parent, you are 6 to 7 times more likely to create an anxious child. This is not rocket science here. The movement from parent to child in terms of worry and anxiety is a very clear and well-researched path. So you need to work on yourself. You need to recognize the messages that you're giving your child.
We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we have a listener question when parents have found pretty upsetting content in the group chats on their kids' phones and what to do about it.
So I love hiking. I spend as much time as I can going up and down mountains in New Hampshire. And I'll tell you, staying hydrated is one of the key things that you need to think about. And I love liquid IV. My favorite flavor, it's the blackberry. I love it. I bring it with me hiking. I also bring it in my water bottle when I go to the gym. There's also the hydration multiplier plus energy, which delivers energy comparable to 1 to 2 cups of coffee through about 100 milligrams of naturally occurring caffeine. You can get a delicious hydrating beverage with liquid IV. This all-in-one formula provides mind and body energy. Tear, pour, live more. You take 1 stick and 16 ounces of water. It hydrates better than water alone. It's 3 times the electrolytes of the leading sports drink, 8 essential vitamins and nutrients, and it is always non-GMO, vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and soy-free. So take on the great outdoors or just take on your busy life. Get Liquid IV 20% off your first order of Liquid IV when you go to liquidiv.com and use the code FLUSTER at checkout. That's 20% off your first order when you shop Better Hydration today using promo code FLUSTER at liquidiv.com.
With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. HelloFresh meals can easily be customized to fit your family's tastes. With protein and veggie swap options, you and the kids can choose just the right combos for each week's deliveries. And HelloFresh's easy-to-follow recipes include pre-portioned ingredients delivered fresh, so no last-minute grocery store run required. Just choose your delivery day, open your box, and get cooking. I have to say, we are HelloFresh users, eaters, cookers, whatever. We've been using it for months, and it is such a game changer in our family. If your kids are old enough, make them prepare dinner. It was the greatest parenting hack of my life to discover that you could make your kids cook if they're hungry enough. Thank you, HelloFresh, for making them really good cooks today. For a limited time, kids eat free. Go to HelloFresh.com/FlustercluxKids to unlock this exclusive offer. 1 free kids meal per box for 2 months while subscriptions are active. That's free kids meals just by going to HelloFresh.com/FlustercluxKids. It's America's #1 meal kit.
What's Lumen? Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. How cool is that? And on the app, it lets you know if you're burning fat or carbs. It gives you tailored guidance to improve your nutrition, your workouts, your sleep, and even your stress management. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning, and you'll know what's going on with your metabolism. Whether you're burning mostly carbs or fats, then Lumen gives you a personalized nutrition plan for the day based on your measurements. You can also breathe into it before and after workouts and meals, so you know exactly what's going on in your body in real time. And Lumen will give you tips to keep you on top of your health game. Your metabolism is your body's engine. It's how your body turns food into fuel, and it's how you keep going. Lumen gives you recommendations to improve your metabolic health. It can track your cycle as well as the onset of menopause and adjust your recommendations to keep your metabolism healthy throughout hormonal shifts so you can keep up your energy and stave off cravings. How cool is that? This is just information that helps you know what's going on inside of you in a way that is helpful, specific, and such a good resource for you. If you want to take the next step in improving your health, go to lumen.me/fluster to get 15% off your Lumen. That's LUMEN.me/fluster for 15% off your purchase. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this episode. Okay, we're back.
We received a listener question from a mom who had discovered some pretty disturbing content in the chats with her friends. Today, my 11-year-old daughter told me she had a very depressed friend to the extent that he'd been talking about death. Needless to say, I was not quite ready with the response. I did try to tell her she needs to tell him that he needs to talk to an adult. Otherwise, I would talk to someone. She went on to say, what if I start having thoughts like that too in the future? This led me to go through her group chat conversations with her friends, and I was very shocked to find all these 11-year-olds talking about death, hurting themselves, parents either not listening, understanding, or else making too big a deal of things, including my daughter. We've always prided ourselves in the fact that we have a very open relationship with our daughter and she can talk to us about anything. She has asked some very serious questions about anything from sex to suicide to drugs, and we've always tried to answer in an age-appropriate way so that she doesn't look anywhere else for answers. But she was saying her parents don't listen, don't understand, don't care. I think she also said something about sharp objects, though I will be honest, half the conversation made no sense to me because of all the slang. There was some very inappropriate slang, which I find it very hard to believe that these kids knew what it meant when they were using it. In fact, I want to believe that none of them really know what they're talking about. But is that true? Are they just acting more grown up and dark than they really are? Somehow these 11-year-olds morphed over the summer into dark, twisted teenagers, and I don't know what to do. Should I limit and take away her messaging and her iPad privileges? She was definitely using them more over the summer, and I was okay because I thought she was keeping in touch with her friends. But is it worth keeping this form of communication going if it's only fueling such negativity? How should I confront her about this?
Yeah, so there it is. An 11-year-old has an iPad, has the ability to go into a group chat. And I think the first thing we need to recognize, the first thing we need to understand, things are contagious. So it is not unusual, actually, in a group text, even for kids at the age of 11, to say things and to present themselves in a way that's not really who they are, but how they want to be perceived. A very outdated metaphor that I'm going to use, if you talk to people who smoke cigarettes, who are 50, 60, 70, and I used to work with a lot of people who are trying to stop smoking, and you ask them, why did you start smoking in the first place? The vast majority of people will say, I started smoking when I was 12, 13, 14 because I wanted to fit in, because I thought it was cool. When we are talking about behaviors that kids engage in, a lot of them, if you ask them separately, is this a good idea? Do you think you should be doing this? A lot of them will say, no, I know it's not a good idea, but I want to fit in. I have a client whose parents just discovered that he was vaping nicotine, and his answer was exactly the same. He wanted to fit in with a group of kids. They were putting pressure on him. So when we join kids together at an age in which social connection is so important to them, developmentally on the top of the list, they will engage in behaviors that they perceive or they believe will help them fit in. And when we have a group chat, when we have a group text, and kids start talking about these mature subjects, when they start talking about death, suicide, sex, self-harm, and a mother sees this and thinks, oh my gosh, is my daughter thinking about this? Is my daughter engaged in this? We want to look and see the power of the group. And it doesn't mean that the power of the group is just in a group chat. The power of a group in real life is really powerful also. So what I would say to this parent is that, for one, the things that her 11-year-old is talking about are sort of, it's getting younger, but are sort of developmentally not surprising to me because these are the things that they're exposed to. I remember looking in the newspaper and reading an article, reading a question in Dear Abby. Remember Dear Abby? And it was about sex. And I was probably 11 or 12. And I cut it out so that I could talk to my friends about it. And I was nowhere near having sex, believe me.
It was the 1970s version of a group chat.
Yes, right. That's like you take the scissors and you cut out the Dear Abby column and you bring it to school. You hide it, right? I mean, that's exactly the case.
With inky hands.
I know, with inky hands, right? And it was so like...
Or you put your silly putty over it so that you could read your silly putty.
Yes, that's right. Isn't that funny? I guess that's a very funny and vivid example of the combination of I'm still a kid and I'm very curious about these grown-up things.
It's true that also my daughter was that age. It was the first time that I had to have that conversation with her that depression and anxiety were contagious and social.
That's right.
Because there's going to be someone in the group at that point who's usually going to start really feeling those patterns in a big way.
Right. They're curious about it. So when they get exposed to it, so somebody's talking about it or somebody's doing it, it's very provocative. It's very interesting. The other thing to recognize is that what these kids often bond over at this age, so 11, 12, the tweens into teens, are intense emotional experiences, which is my contention is why the Hunger Games...
Oh, I was just about to bring that up. Exactly.
So popular, right? I mean, so intense. Mothers hate it. Parents hate it. But there's that intensity of emotional experience. And it's very, very common for kids wanting to seek that out. I'll tell you a funny story too. One of my friend's sons, same thing, right? Has a phone. parents looking at the group chat. There's rules that you can only be in a group chat with people that you know personally. So you can't be in a group chat with somebody else's friends of a friend of a friend. And I think he got his phone taken away from him for a while because he was in trouble. And when he went back, somebody said, "Hey, we haven't seen you in the group chat for a while. Where you been?" And he said, "I've been in trouble. You know, police trouble." And the mom was like, "You weren't in police trouble. We took your phone away because you were acting like an idiot," right? I don't even know what he did, but it was so funny. Like, yeah, trouble, police trouble. Really? Mm-mm. So they do that. So what you want to do with this 11-year-old, what should a mom do? For one, it's totally appropriate for you to be checking the group texts of your 11-year-old. If you decide to give your 11-year-old a device in which they can be in group chats, can they handle it? Sometimes you find out they can't handle it because you look at the group chat. Sometimes you see what they're doing. So it is perfectly fine for you to look at it, to check it, and then to make the decision that this is not the arena in which your child should be, because the content is not what you want it to be, because they're not capable of communicating in a way that they're learning things you don't want them to learn. Totally fine for you to say you can't handle this. So looking at it is totally fine.
But you're saying look at it and take it away.
Yeah. Look at it. And if you see stuff that is not appropriate, or if you see stuff that's concerning to you, you have two choices. One, you can address it with your child and help them navigate it. But if you feel like they're in over their head, which a lot of times 11-year-olds get in over their head, it's allowed for you to say, "You're not ready for this." It's the same thing I say, we don't give 14-year-olds Maseratis for a reason. The other thing too is that if you are a parent and you're checking a group chat and you see that somebody is talking about death, that they're talking about suicide, that they're talking about doing something to themselves, I would not say to the 11-year-old, "You need to bring this up with your friend or I'm going to get involved." You get involved. You don't put that on an 11-year-old to address. If there is a child in a group chat talking about suicide, you do not wait. You immediately get in touch with the adults, with the parents, immediately. Because one of the things we know is that kids who make either successful or unsuccessful suicide attempts usually talk about it first. They usually talk about it. And we also know from the research that talking directly about suicide helps prevent it. So using that language with your child, not being afraid to bring it up. And it's great. This mom says that she's had very direct conversations with her daughter about sex and suicide and drugs. Using the word suicide is helpful when you begin to get a sense that your child is talking about that. That's the number one thing. I wouldn't say to a kid, "Hey, if you don't address it, I will." You address it. You don't wait.
Can I just say that I listened to all of this and I had different things that spoke to me that I'm curious your opinion on.
Okay.
And as a side note, with the suicide thing, my best friend in high school died by suicide. So I had this personal experience when we talked about it, with my kids too. So that made it, I guess, in a sense, a little easier actually. But I do think that it's very common at that age, at 11 particularly, where it's thrown around for drama. It's thrown around to match that Hunger Games excitement of intense emotional experience. And that's kind of different than those who actually sort of premeditate a way and method and all of that as well. I translate it and just say that people talk about this as an out in a really dramatic way when they're also talking about things that they very dramatically want to avoid or exit from, and to notice how people use it, but it's not a really great pattern to use. And then you also talk about the devastation that it leaves behind. It's like burning a family down. But let's get back to the point of what she was actually saying. If I read that my daughter in a group chat had said, "My parents don't listen or understand me," we got to talk about that. Because to me, that's the thing that no one wants their kid saying that. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But here's the reality. They say it a lot.
Exactly.
So if I read that, if I were looking at an 11-year-old or even a 13-year-old or 15-year-old's group chat and everybody was harshing on their parents, this is the hard thing about this. And this is why giving an 11-year-old this device, giving the 11-year-old this ability to engage in this conversation in a way that makes it easier. It's easier to say things in a group text than it is in person, is difficult because this is a common thing for teenagers to talk about their parents, to say things about their parents. In a group chat, everybody just sort of pile on, yeah, like my parents suck too. That's a really normal developmental thing. And oftentimes they will say things just to fit in. They will say things like, yeah, my parents never listened to me. And then if you ask them individually, they'd be like, oh my God, no, my parents are so nice. But they say things just like, I'm in police trouble. It brings home the point that these ways of communicating in a group are normal parts of development, right? There is groupthink, there is risky shift. Risky shift is that you will do things that are riskier and more out of character for you if you're in a group rather than individually. This is the mob mentality. And so when you find this, how do you intervene? It's sort of like in the old days, if a parent found their daughter's diary and in the diary it said these things. So how do you address them? The difference for me here is that this isn't a 15-year-old, this is an 11-year-old. And so really it shows to me is that, and she says these 11-year-olds turned into these dark teenagers overnight. I would have a conversation, a direct conversation with the 11-year-old about the things that she wrote. There is a privacy issue once you get to a certain age. So if a 16-year-old was saying to their friend or writing in the diary, oh, my parents are such a drag, they don't let me do anything, blah, 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 blah. If you found that diary or that note of a 16-year-old, I wouldn't necessarily go to the 16-year-old and saying, why are you saying these things about me? But for an 11-year-old, she's out of her depth. This is too much for an 11-year-old to be dealing with. So I would talk about it directly. And I would say, you wrote things like, we don't listen to you, and it seems you might have been talking about sharp objects. And I need to know, is this something that you're saying because you're part of this group and this is what everybody is doing? Or are these things that you're really thinking about and feeling? And should we address them child to parent? See, there is just such a difference between what they will say in a group and what they really think and feel. And that's the job of this mom to help differentiate between the two.
That's great. The other point I wanted to focus in on that we've definitely talked about in past episodes. You phrased it once in a way that I really liked. But when we're talking about our friends, especially at this age, the choices we make of the friends that we do and the way that we feel around certain types of people, certain personalities, I think it's so key to start planting that seed of, is this the group that is making you feel best? Are the people that you're around, what is it about them that is drawing you to it? I dealt with this as a parent. I also dealt with this as a teenager. There's a reason why sometimes you want to be around really depressed kids because they're manifesting emotions that you're kind of feeling too, but they're just so much more emotive about it. And you're drawn to that. I was drawn to that because I was from like a really positive house culture. So the idea of someone like saying, this sucks, was enticing to me.
Mm-hmm. You didn't have the room to say that in your house.
Exactly. So in high school, I was drawn to that. But I also think that being around people who have their stuff together, showing your kids when you're around people that have their stuff together and are positive, you might feel better too, because these things are contagious. You got to teach them that the choices that you make about the friends that you choose matter, and to start connecting how they feel. It's never too soon to talk about that stuff.
Right. So when we talk about the skills we're trying to teach, remember, kids are experimenting with different things. They're trying to figure things out. This boy that was vaping, he was just trying something on, and his parents caught him and they were very upset. And we've talked about it, but he was trying something on. And I think that when you've got an 11-year-old who's clearly trying something on, the mom says they're using this slang that she doesn't even know if they know what it means. She doesn't even know what it means. This is the social experimentation that you do as you're trying to figure out who you are and what group you're going to be in. And so, Robin, what you say is really important, is that the skill that we're trying to teach kids is, how do you choose the people that you are going to be connected to? How do you choose your friends? How do you choose the activities that you're going to be engaged in? Even let's take it out of just into a normal realm thing, right? My son was on a baseball team. He loved to play baseball, but the culture of the team was really awful, mainly because of the coach. And so he chose to remove himself from that culture. Another client who is trying to decide whether or not she's going to quit dance, which she loves, but the culture in this group of young women is really negative. They talk a lot about depression. They talk a lot about eating disorders. They talk a lot about self-harm. And as much as she loves dance, she's making a choice not to be in a very contagious culture where these topics and these behaviors are becoming the glue that is keeping them together.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. A new school year is starting, and personally, I can't believe I have an 8th grader on my hands. If you're a parent, you want to make this new school year an opportunity for your kids to learn important life skills and to continue building independence. For that, we recommend Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families where kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely, and parents can keep an eye on the kids' new money habits. With a chores feature that lets you reward kids for honoring their responsibilities around the house, you can help kids get into their fall routine more easily than ever. Then there's the Greenlight Infinity Plan, which includes the same access to financial literacy education that makes Greenlight a valuable resource for millions of parents and kids, plus several built-in safety features to give you peace of mind. No matter which features make most sense for your household, Greenlight is the easy, convenient way for parents to raise financially smart kids and for families to navigate life together. Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/fluster. That's greenlight.com/fluster to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/fluster. Being an adult has its high points, like you can eat ice cream for dinner anytime you want, and you get to pick out what you want to wear. But it's not all fun because you have to wash those clothes and iron them too. You also have to do your taxes and figure out what's for dinner every night and make doctor's appointments. And for that one, there's ZocDoc, the healthcare app that makes adulting much easier. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search and compare high-quality in-network doctors. Choose the right one for your needs and click to instantly book an appointment. And we're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty, from mental health to dental health, eye care to skin care, and much more. You can filter for doctors who take your insurance, where they're located, and who are a good fit for any medical need that you may have, and who are highly rated by verified patients. You can also see their actual appointment openings. Choose a time that works for you and click to instantly book a visit. Plus, ZocDoc appointments happen fast, typically within just 24 to 72 hours of booking, and you can even score same-day appointments. Raising a family means that there are always medical emergencies of all scale. I love that ZocDoc is a reliable way for me to get the healthcare appointments that I need for my family. So stop putting off those doctor's appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/fluster to find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. That's ZocDoc.com/fluster, ZocDoc.com/fluster.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Okay, so now back to the show.
I do believe as a parent, because of my experience with my daughter, that if you talk about this and frame it as a contagious type of thing and help make them aware of what are the less positive traits or habits that their friends are doing that is not helping them, they learn figuratively how to be in that group with a mask and wash hands. Because I feel like if they are aware and they see and they can call out that behavior in their own heads, they can learn how to be around that without being in it, especially if they have to be around. Like if you're a dancer and you have to be around eating disorders, you have to be around the self-compare. talking about that and helping them be aware of it, you can do that. You really can. You can help them develop that skill.
Yeah, it's a skill that we want adults to have. I mean, the thing that I think we don't talk about enough, in my field in particular, is how powerful our social connections and disconnections are. We are social beings. And so when we're talking to kids about what are the behaviors you see other people doing? What are the things that you want to inoculate yourself against? What are the things that you can observe in other kids that you can say, this is not something that I want to be a part of? This is when we were talking so much about bullying and teasing and being a bystander versus stepping in and intervening. This is all based on social connection and disconnection and clearly recognizing the contagion of this stuff. And we started off this episode talking about smartphones and talking about limiting kids on smartphones. If we look at the social contagion that happens with smartphones and how that makes things spread wildly, again, to date ourselves, remember the Macarena? Remember how fast that stupid dance spread? Now we've got TikTok dances, but we've got all sorts of other behaviors. You know, there are TikTok challenges that are sometimes fun and sometimes really dangerous. We have to recognize at the heart of this question that this mom is asking is recognizing the power of social contagion and how we have to help kids develop that skill, like you say, of stepping back and recognizing what's good for me and what's not. What do I get engaged in? What do I get pulled into? And how do I get myself out of something once I found myself pulled in? Because that happens all the time too.
I think this mom sounds so loving and really trying to create great connection with her daughter. One of the things that I always say to this day is these are the skills that would be really helpful in this situation for you. And these are skills that most adults are continuing to work on throughout their lives. This is tough stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I also share the skills that I'm not so good at as well. And I feel like that's fostered a really great framework for my daughter and I to talk about this stuff, especially like with friend stuff. Adults still have friend stuff.
Of course.
It never gets figured out 100%.
Nope. You're always making adjustments and you're learning and you're saying, oh God, I shouldn't have done that, or that's not really something I should have been involved in. Adults do that all the time. One of the things that's really helpful if we're framing this up with kids is to talk about the power of negative connection and how enticing that is. And even if we look at it in something like gossip or putting down other people or marginalizing other people, all of the othering that happens. And when you're in a group and the content is emotionally compelling, it's something that they're developmentally curious about anyway, it's easy to get sucked in. So the power of positive versus negative connection is a really good way to frame this up with your kids as you're helping them differentiate between what do you want to be involved in and what do you want to stay away from. And let me just say, they're going to get involved in the stuff you don't want them to get involved in. Because one conversation or even 80 conversations about not getting pulled into this compelling negative stuff, it's still going to happen. So it's okay if it happens. You just want to stay on top of it. And I think having a direct conversation with your kids about this is really helpful, and recognizing that kids get pulled into things that are developmentally over their heads. Sometimes those things, unfortunately, are the most interesting and the most damaging. So you just pay attention and you have the conversation over and over and over again. Not every day, but when the time is right, when the situation presents itself, talk to your kids about negative connection, behaviors, and if you need to, people, limit the ability for your kids to be in group chats if they can't handle it. Thanks for listening. And if you found this podcast helpful, please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It helps other people find this information.
And if you'd like to dig deeper on any of these topics, we have specialized playlists on our Spotify profile, and the link is in the show notes. Topics like teens, depression, and OCD. Bye, Lynn.
Bye, Robin.
Are you a parent in need of a laugh and a little escape? Look no further. Parenting is a Joke is the podcast you've been waiting for. Hey, I'm Ophira Eisenberg. I'm a stand-up comic and parent. And each week I chat with one of my top comedian pals who, just like you, are juggling careers, busy lives and schedules, and raising a family. You can expect candid stories, hilarious mishaps that happen on stage and at home, and just a lot of laughs. There's no expert advice here. Well, actually, sometimes a good idea does sneak its way in, but mostly just pure, relatable fun to remind you that we're all in this parenting adventure together. New episodes of Parenting is a Joke drop every Tuesday, so tune in, get ready to laugh, unwind, and maybe even feel a little bit better about your own parenting. Because sometimes that's exactly what your therapist, pediatrician, and bartender ordered. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast platform.